It's one of those days. After 7 years of working with wood and epoxy, we're gonna show you the good, the bad, and the ugly of all these forms. Wooden tape. Now, this isn't our favorite kind of mold, but it's one that we used a lot in the early on days before we had the option of HDP molds. Basically what you're doing, taking some tuck tape, cladding a piece of plywood, building some walls. You can build this with off-the-shelf materials, just like the Titan submersible. And they're custom sized, so you can cut it to whatever size you want, and it's exactly what you need. Some of the cons of these molds are they're one-time use. So once you build this mold and take it apart, you're gonna have screw holes in the edges, it's gonna be covered in silicone. Some of the tape might peel off. You may get a second use, but most of them are one-time use and it ends up being scrapped. It's good if you just wanna make one project, but if you plan on making more than one, a reusable is definitely the way to go. So between sourcing the materials, building the form, you have much less time to watch sweet YouTube videos like these. And last, these aren't guaranteed not to leak. You can see the amount of silicone wasted, time wasted, and just overall stress from a leak like this. You could have a missed piece of silicone, a screw goes in sideways, it's just not perfectly sealed, and now you got a leak and your whole project is down the drain. Silicone molds. Not the most popular in our shop, just due to some of the functionality of it. These have lots of unique shapes, which is great, but they're very expensive. These will bankrupt you faster than the 2008 global financial crisis.
What in the world is happening on Wall Street?
The other main positive is there's minimal waste around the edges, because when you go to peel the form back, you can demold it very easily and have less waste around the edges. Oftentimes they'll tear at the seams, and then you're gonna have a form that you can't use after 4 or 5 uses. You can take care of them and try to get more uses, but you can just see how flimsy it is and how that would tear at some of the seams. The other major downside of these molds is they're very flimsy and floppy. Unless you've got a flat table to work on, these can be difficult to get a nice flat piece. Next up, we've got these molds from Empire Goods. We've got the 1/4 inch white and then the 1/8 inch black ones. These are very easy to mold. They're a little more flexible than some of those other molds, but still rigid enough to hold their shape. So you can demold these with your bare hands, which is nice. You don't have to whack on it with a mallet. The price point on these are also very good, so you're not gonna break the bank. You can often buy 2 or 3 of these molds for the price of, say, 1 silicone mold or 1 larger HDP mold, which is great news for you Starbucks lovers, because you can still get your grande, non-fat, extra whipped Frappuccino latte. One of the best parts about these molds is they're all made from one piece. So they're thermal formed out of one piece of plastic, so they're guaranteed not to leak. These things will stand up to quite a bit of abuse. Wow, that's impressive. The biggest con with these molds, especially the white ones, is sometimes there can be a slight deflection in the bottom. That can be solved by just adding a clamp in the middle to hold down your piece. It normally flattens right out. The black ones have it a lot less because they're thinner. Easy fix, but that is the biggest con with these. That's probably the biggest complaint. So in full transparency, all the molds from Empire Goods were designed in-house. So after using molds from other crafters and makers, we decided to design and build our own style of mold that solved a lot of problems. We just want to let you know that so that you don't think this is a biased video, only pumping up these molds, because there is definitely pros and cons to each style of mold out there. Next up, we've got welded HDPE forms. The main difference between these is these molds have welded sides, and that allows the bottom to be flatter than the earth.
Antarctica is stretched around the entire outer edge like an ice wall.
Because the edges are all welded together, there is risk of them cracking when you're demolding. These aren't as malleable. You can't demold them as easy as the other ones. With a mallet, you can tap all the sides, release your piece, but the risk is you crack that seam and then you either have to silicone it or scrap the whole mold. There's a reason why these are our favorite, and it may seem biased, but we developed these and designed them for use in professional and hobby shops. So these are our go-to molds. And now that you know which mold to get, go watch this video and learn how to make a coffee table.